All right, folks, it is Monday night. It is time for live Q&A as we do every single week, or mostly every single week. If you're new here, we basically answer any questions that you may have about drones. So put them in the comments, and then we have Jason in the back room that's looking into them. We have Ethan behind the camera controls, and then the rest of the peanut gallery back there looking at you guys making comments in the chat. So no Jillian tonight. She is out for the week. So we'll have other people being the hammer in the chat. Not that we really have to do that, but I see quite a few folks already, over 100 people in the live. That's awesome. So let's say hi to a couple folks. We have Big Papafoot Review. We have Thumb Drone, Eric Refsnyder is here. We have Northern Drone Guy, Jonathan Jackson is here. Richard Hooker, Curtis Warren, Rusty Grill, Dean Schaefer, Rick Hone, Matthew Huffman is here. And OK Boomer here quite a bit. Rick's Eye View, Leo De Cordenas. We have Bob Rock, Thor Inspired. Aviating Penguin, that's a new name. I don't think I've seen this one before. Hike and Fly, Old Deadeye, Oren, Dave DeVore, Mountain Man, Philip Pike, John Burns, a lot of folks in the comments. That's awesome. And so on and so forth. So welcome all, welcome. Like I said, if you have questions, put them in the comments. This has already been a busy week. We have a big recording tomorrow for a deep dive course on our airplane side. We're recording a deep dive for the Diamond DA-42, which is a twin engine aircraft. We have one in the hangar that's ready to go. The team was out there prepping today. So we're going to be spending the next 2 days recording that deep dive and then put that on the website. We have some videos. Do we have videos coming up this week, Ben, on the channel? I don't remember what we have. What? Do we have videos coming out this week on the channel? We have the 3S video that posted today. The 3S, oh, that's right. We just posted a video on the Air 3S. Ben did a review of the Air 3S, kind of a long-term review, if you want to call it that. And then we have stuff from last week, maybe that's going to go live. We'll see. Yes. Yes, that's a yes. And then we had a lot of activity in the building today. We finally got all of our permits and paperwork and inspections and shenanigans last week. So they're going to be busy for the next 3 days, and then another inspection on Thursday. And then we're seeing the end of the tunnel. So it's going to be only a few more of these lives that we do here on this set before we tear it down and move on to the new place. So it's gonna be exciting. I don't know how the sets are gonna look on day one, but we're gonna do our best to do a full transition and get you guys into the new set, which is gonna look a whole lot like this one. One of the set is gonna look a whole lot like this one, and then the other 2 or 3 sets are gonna look a little bit different. But yeah. Good stuff. All right, we probably should get to the question because I see a lot of them already. Holy smokes. Okay, let's get to it. Big Papafoot Review says, I do have a question. It's early. I was curious as far as if I do not have a Part 107, or when I do have my Part 107, is it legal to fly over a road looking down on vehicle or only transversing? You cannot fly over people or people in moving vehicles unless you have a categorized drone. So there's no, the transversing term is unfortunately misunderstood by even some people that claim to teach Part 107. In order to be using that term transversing, you need to have a categorized drone. So you can't transverse over people unless you have a categorized drone or a waiver, but in most cases, a categorized drone. So you would only be able to do that using a Cat 1. And I know there are some videos online that are confusing because people are confused about this. It is a confusing rule, but yes, anytime you're going to fly over people and or moving vehicles, you need to have a categorized drone. Each category of drone has different restrictions, but at least at the very least, you need to have that or you need to have a waiver. Northern Drone Guy says, how much cloud cover is too much for a good quality photo? What percent of the cloud? I mean, it's hard to give an always answer, but I would say if it's over 50, 60, 70%, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's probably going to block. I mean, if it blocks most of the light coming into the scene, then it's an issue. If you have overcast, fully overcast, then I probably wouldn't be taking photos unless it's something that's very visual. How can I say that? If you need to do a photo of a building because somebody needs like pure data, but if you're trying to do something artistic, then I probably wouldn't do it. But yeah, it all depends on how much light is coming through. The clouds can make it look really cool by having, you know, some of the rays of light coming through. So I don't know if, yeah, probably 75% would be a number. I don't know if it's a strict number. Rick's Eye View says, do you have an opinion on Final Cut Pro? I do. I have been using iMovie. Is it worth the upgrade? Yes, it's more than likely worth the upgrade. I have to admit, I don't think I've used iMovie all that much, but I know some of the functionality. It's fairly basic. Final Cut is opening up a whole lot of option. This is what we use in the office. You know, everybody's using Final Cut. We have a few projects and a few employees offsite that use Adobe products as well, but mostly we use Final Cut. So, Aviating Penguin says, how much would... Yeah, I'm not going to read that. Northern Drone Guy says, have you seen today's video from 51 Drones from Russ? I have not. He used AI to ask about the drone ban. Very well done video. Oh, interesting. I kind of want to see that. Russ is a good guy, so look forward to seeing that. Hey guys, looking for a personal opinion here. Got an Air 3S. Is there any reason to even look at the Mavic 3 Pro? You know, unless you're going to be recording in ProRes, but that's the Pro Cine, so never mind. No, unless you really need to have that 7x zoom, which the Air 3S doesn't have. Otherwise, I would say no. I would like to see a member of Congress fly drones for themselves. Is there any way to make that happen? And Vic, if you're reading this, take Greg to an MLB well in Denver. I'm not in Denver anymore, but can we get Congress members to fly? Yeah, it would be really cool. Unfortunately, Congress being in DC, DC has a whole airspace restriction, but it would be nice to have them be educated and basically, yeah, learn about how these drones fly and what they actually can accomplish. I bet you these people would look at drones differently if they kind of knew what happens. Maybe Vic can make this happen. Vic just came back from DC. He's going to talk to us about this on Friday, this Friday, during happy hour in the community. So if you're a member of the community, which is free, if you're a PI student, you are a member of the community. I would recommend that. At what wind speed is recommended not to have your drone up? That depends on the drone, depends on what you are comfortable with, but yeah, it really all depends on the drone. If you have a smaller drone, it's not going to be very wind resistant. If you have a more expensive drone, it's going to be more wind resistant. So look at what is recommended by the manufacturer, I would say. I received that's Chris, says the super awesome PI registration stickers for my drone. Love it. Included in the pack were stickers for remote ID compliance. Do I put these on the drone also? Yeah, they're designed. We give those away. If you have a drone that's obviously remote ID compliant, technically, in theory, the manufacturer is supposed to put the stickers on the drone, but they don't. So we decided to help you guys be compliant by putting those in there. So if you have a drone that's remote ID compliant, I would just put a sticker on the drone as well. Any BS bill in Arizona I should yell at our local politicians for? I think I know why you're saying this. I saw that one of our representative, Ellie Crane, is doing a mobile tour of Arizona to go talk to people. I'm guessing that's why you're saying this. Yes, there is actually a bill. If you go, I'm not going to remember from the top of my head, but if you either shoot me an email, contact@pilotinstitute.com, or you go on the DAA website, Drone Advocacy Alliance website, you'll be able to see what is being proposed right now. But I just saw it popping in my list. So Is there a specific distance to keep from main aircraft? Would 400 or 500 feet be good, or should it be more? Estimation separation based on flight-aware data, AGL. So, I hate to give a number because I think that number varies depending on a lot of different things. Helicopters, airplanes. If you're close to an airplane, it means that they're landing. Airplanes don't fly at low altitude typically. Helicopters do fly at low altitude. 400 to 500 feet is the bare minimum, but just keep in mind how quickly aircraft are moving. The FAA wants you to be 1,000 feet away horizontally from clouds and wait, what did I just say? Yeah, and 500 feet below clouds. So that would be a bare minimum, I would say, is 1,000 feet away horizontally, because the FAA put that number in there because if an airplane comes out of, or an aircraft, most likely an airplane comes out of the clouds, then you have enough separation that you can react. You never know which way aircraft are going to go because you don't know their intention. So they could be changing direction, especially helicopters, at the last minute. So you want enough time to be able to react. So I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to give a specific number. Is Vic in the chat? Vic texted me a second ago, but I don't think he's in the chat. Okay. David says, I'm a recreational pilot. If I am approached by a law enforcement officer asking for help to find someone, can I help, or do I respectfully refuse and offer to let them fly my drone? Don't let them fly your drone because they're more than likely not certified to do this. You are a recreational pilot, so technically you cannot do that kind of activity recreationally. With that being said, if it's the difference between life and death for the person that you're looking for, I would say I would probably do it, quite frankly. But no, in theory, you would have to be 107. But like I said, if it's somebody who's lost and you're trying to help, chances are, I mean, they might ask you for help. It happened recently. Was it in Arizona? It was somewhere around on the lake, and they were looking for someone, and that person was able to find them. They were on the side. I don't know if they were 107, if they were recreational, but they ended up losing their drone because they were out there for so long. They couldn't come back with enough battery. So they almost kind of sacrificed their drone, but they found the people and they were able to get them rescued. So that was a cool story. But yeah, that would be my reasoning. Utah. That was in Utah. I have a question. When I get my 107, can I become a civilian contractor for a sheriff's department to do aerial search and rescue mission with a thermal drone? Jason, that depends on your sheriff's department. That depends on their policies. It depends on a lot of things. So if they let you do it, then absolutely, it's something that you can do. They may or may not want you to do this. Locally here, they do not want us to help them with search and rescue, for example. We've approached them, we've let them know, and they basically said no. So, yeah, depends. Old Man Droning says, some people say we don't own the airspace over our property. Others said we own the airspace, but we don't control the airspace. The FAA does. What is the most accurate? The most accurate is the second statement, which is you technically, the FAA controls the airspace above the blade of grass, they say. So you don't control. You don't get to tell people you can't be in the airspace above my house because you don't control that. I know this is kind of out of your wheelhouse, but I noticed DJI is no longer shipping to the United States, drones anyway. I'm assuming it's still available option to order from a foreign store, not in the US. I don't know that I've seen that they don't ship in the US anymore. That sounds like something that we would have heard if that was the case. But I'm not saying you're lying, obviously, but I'd like to get more information on that for sure. So I would recommend buying from a big box store or from a reseller directly. They have the stock. So yeah. What are the consequences in the probably unlikely event that a TFR pops up when you are already flying? Yeah, it's Unlikely, Jim, because TFRs, as much as they pop up because of emergencies, like if it's a VIP TFR, it's going to be posted several days ahead typically. And I mean, there could be a wildfire nearby and you don't know about it and they pop a TFR. So the consequences, I don't know. I think you could make a case if somebody gets you in trouble to say, hey, you know, I was flying ahead. There's really no way that you can find that a TFR just popped up. So with that being said, you know, the battery life on a drone is not that long. So by the time you land, you probably would get a notification that the TFR was up on your app. I've taken a search and rescue course, but need more in-depth information in the process of starting a SAR team and need help setting up drone SOPs. Gotcha, Bob. Yeah, for the COA, we have a free course that's available on the website to help you with the COA. As far as SOPs, that's going to be up to you and your team. So you got to put definitely some work into that. But yeah, the COA, we can help you. There's a free course on the website. Dan is here again. We have, it says, hello, what are some entry-level drones that allow you to turn off sensors GPS that interfere with cinematic shots to automated anti-collision? Oh, I see. DJI are not good in that regard. Most drones from DJI, you can turn off obstacle avoidance. So I'm taking the Air 3S, the Air 3, Air 2S. Well, the Mini, I don't remember if the Mini you can turn it off. I'm pretty sure you can. You can, yeah. Yeah, but he's talking about like automatic anti-collision avoidance. That's I would use, it's called APAS for DJI. So anything that has APAS, you can turn off or on to either bypass, to stop, or to just do nothing. So, but yeah, I'm like you, I don't really like that kind of stuff. So I always turn it off. When I start to hear the beeping, I'm like, yeah, I don't need this. Okay, next. Damn, we have a lot of questions tonight. I better keep it up. George Wood says, do I need a license as I have a drone and I'd like to get used to the settings? So if I took it up 8 to 10 feet to get used to the settings, would I still need a license? Not a license. You need to get trust, because that would be a recreational flight. So you need to get the trust exam on the FAA website, which is free, trust.pilotinstitute.com. And yeah, that's what I would recommend. But after that, you can fly recreationally, for sure. Make sure you get airspace approval, but you'll learn all of that in trust. Dean Sendo says, can you give me the highlights comparison between the Air 3S and a non-existent Mini 5 Pro? I can't because I haven't seen any of the specs on the Mini 5 Pro. So, nope. Dreaming Monk says, my company is just starting out with drone OOP inspection roof in construction area. How long would a waiver take to get back to sorry, I can't read. How long would a waiver take to get back to us for multiple Cat 1 drone DJI Mini 3 Pro? Okay, so let's clean up a few things here. Mini 3 Pro is not a Category 1 drone. It will never be a Category 1 drone, unfortunately, because it's too heavy with the prop guard. So you need to have a waiver, which is correct. So you need a waiver to fly over people. Take the Cat 1 out of the discussion here, because it's not really the Cat 1. It's sub 400 grams. As far as waivers, unfortunately, there's a bit of a delay right now in the waiver office. We had a Drone Pro meeting last week, and they basically said that there is an indefinite hold on issuing waivers at the moment. So they're still receiving them, but it's going to be a while. So I don't know that I have an answer, unfortunately, on how long it's going to take. But if you're inspecting roofs in construction areas, you might be able to do this without having to fly over people. Hike and Fly says, in Canada, you don't need to have a Part 107 equivalent to be able to do business with your drone or monetize YouTube. If non-107 American fly there, can that be monetized? Yes, it's all about the rules in that specific country. So Canada has a risk-based approach rather than a type of operation-based approach, which to me makes more sense, but it is what it is. So yeah, if you take footage in Canada, you can use it as long as you follow the rules in that country, then you're good to go. Eco5 Hotel says, do you guys have any courses that are specific to real estate drone work? Yes, we do actually. We have a real estate drone course on the website going over with Ken and Billy. They go over how to get cool footage for your business, ground and aerial. If I'm hired by a recreational sport team to use my Air 3 to privately live stream a game, do I need to worry about the other team consent to the recording and the broadcast? Hey. So the answer, I'll give you the FAA answer. The FAA answer is no. The league, if it's a league thing, there might be rules against that at the league level. So I would check on that, because if you do it, you probably won't get in trouble, but the team might get disqualified because they're using something that's not legal and they hired you to do it. That would be my answer, but FAA-wise, nope. Technically, no rules. I received my Part 107, that's Bob, via add-on to my commercial pilot license. Okay. I'm not current. Is my Part 107 still valid? Yes, it is. Do I need to do anything different to retain 107 currency when it expires? So, great question, Bob. You are still current as long as when you took, well, you have your 107 certificate, so it must have worked. You must have been current at the time. So if you're no longer current, the only thing is that instead of doing ALC 515, I think, was the one for Part 61 pilots, you will do ALC 677 on the FAA website. So you would do the one for Part 107 pilots, non-61 pilots, instead of doing the one for Part 61 pilots. So you can only do the one for Part... It's the same thing. It's just checking the right box, basically. So, but yeah, you would do ALC 677 in your case to get recurrent. Any suggestion on an entry-level thermal drone? I would say if you can find an older Mavic 2 Enterprise or a Autel Evo 2 Dual or Evo 2 thermal, then I would do that. Those are probably the most affordable, still highly capable drones. So, yeah. Tony says, do you guys have any plans on getting a Matrice 4E for deep dive? Yep, we do. It's coming up very soon. So we're getting pretty close to a move now. So we're slowing down on receiving new drones to do reviews. But as soon as we're in a new building, we're going to go full blast again. But yes, it is on our list. How do you cross roads? Then it's confusing. If you are flying just crossing a street is what I'm meaning. You got to cross the street when there's no traffic. That's the bottom line. Or you have to land, cross the road physically, and then take off again. That's how you would do it. Jason says, if you get an external remote ID, do you put the sticker on? Yeah, I mean, it's still a remote ID compliant drone, so you would put it on your module, possibly. I think the sticker might be too big for that. Some of the modules are pretty small. There's no... The requirement is for drones that are natively compliant with remote ID. So that's what you would want to do. You put the sticker on that, not on a drone that has a module on it. Is the integrated, John says, the integrated LED anti-collision light on the Mavic 3 Pro, on the Mavic 3, sufficient to satisfy the 3 statute mile visibility? It is not. So you need to have a special light that's visible from further. Ian says, if you take photos for the purpose of entering into a raffle competition for best picture, in which there is a cash prize, would that require Part 107? Just no. I mean, would that require Part 107? Technically, because the intent is no longer to fly for recreational purposes, but my guess is that you're just using a picture that's already in your category, in your thing, and then you just happen to have a picture that qualifies. Helicopter seems to break the 500-foot rule. There's no such thing as a 500-foot rule for helicopters. That's why. So helicopters are exempt from that 500-foot rule. If you read the regulation, the last bit, the subpart D in there, talks about helicopters and what they can do. So helicopters can fly at any altitude, which is why they're fairly dangerous for drones, which is why most of the collision, which there was another collision recently between a drone and a helicopter a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty much every single collision that has been recorded and reported are between drones and helicopters. Old Man Droning says, if I'm flying in controlled airspace but inside a building, do I still need lens approval? You don't. The FAA only controls outside, so not inside the building. Den says, is Specta considered part of the ban since they're made in China, or is it just DJI? They're actually not made in China. So Specta is made in... No, not Japan. Singapore, I think. But it's not made in China. So technically they're outside. And right now DJI is the only one being targeted. So, any opinion on the Potensic Atom 2? No, people ask us about this quite a bit, but we have not had our chance to review one of them. Should remote pilot keep record of all hours flight since day one? Do you think flight hours with drone equal more expertise? Yeah, I mean, I do to a certain extent think that flying more hours gives you more expertise for sure. Should you record your hours? You can. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no requirement, but it is good to know if you eventually want to get a job somewhere, they might be asking how many hours you have flying a specific platform. So yeah, I would keep a log. If I register a remote ID module for the Neo to fly under Part 107, can I remove the remote ID module when flying under recreational rules? Or is it like the Mini Pro battery conundrum? So here's the deal. If you fly the Neo under Part 107, it means that you have to register the drone. Once you register the drone, because it's registered, then it needs to have remote ID at all times, regardless of what rules you fly under. So because registration is a registration, it's not just a Part 107 registration. So when you register the drone to fly it under Part 107, automatically it forces it to have remote ID. I hope that makes sense. I mean, the rule doesn't make sense, but that's how you would apply that rule. Phew. Bill says, our COA holders, law enforcement, should at least have Part 107 pilot to exhibit their UAS at a mall. It depends on their COA. So in the past, COAs were designed solely to be used for when they were doing a job that was part of their job duties. If I didn't explain that very well, but now you can do demonstration using a COA. If it is written as such in their COA, then they're good to go. With that said, operating under a COA, the FAA says that you can either operate under a COA using Part 107 licensing, or that department would have to come up with training that is equivalent to at least Part 107 and then provide that training. So what we always recommend, and what the FAA actually recommends, is that those operating under a COA should continue to do Part 107. I know it sounds self-serving, but it's not, because when something happens, and this is straight from the FAA, when something happens, you're going to have to prove that your training was as good as Part 107. So why not use just Part 107? So that's the reasoning right there. Josh says, in terms of remote ID, I have heard that there is a lot of non-compliance. Yeah, and that's... So non-compliance for remote ID is going to go away slowly because more and more aircraft are made with remote ID that you can't turn off. So yeah, I don't know that there is a way to measure non-compliance for remote ID. I was asked to fly in an airspace in Prescott that is classified as Class E2. Okay, Matthew. The chart supplement reads airspace Class D, service 1300 to 0500 Zulu. And other time Class E, can you shed some light on this? Yes. So Prescott, very familiar with that airport since it's our airport. The Class E2 is the extension to the Class Delta airspace, which means that during the day, you don't need to have approval to fly in there. At night, Class Echo airspace, Class Delta airspace turns into Class Echo, which is primary to the airport, which means that you would need to get approval to fly in that airspace. That Class E2 extension becomes part of the Class E airspace at night. So to answer your question, if you're flying in that extension during the day, you don't need approval. If you're flying there at night, you would need approval. Or when I say at night, outside of when the tower is in service. Steven says, I live near a Medivac helipad. Other than listening to the radio, how can I tell if the Medivac could be heading my way? That's really the only way. So I would definitely listen to that radio. Make sure that they're talking on that radio. So if you live close to it, turn it on and listen and see what they say. You know, if they're actually making calls. Philip says, I really like the idea someone suggested earlier about introducing our obsession to Congress. You could try to get one of your local representatives to come by and introduce them to the activity. Yeah, when we move to the new building, we plan on inviting some politicians. Jason says, does Pilot Institute offer tutoring? We don't have tutoring at the moment until we move to the new building, and then we will be able to do that. I registered my NEO with a Potensic remote ID module. Okay. The information on my FAA inventory shows information as aircraft type and in the serial number of the remote ID, but the manufacturer as DJI. Yeah. So you're saying inventory, so I'm guessing that you're flying recreationally. As such, the NEO, which is not remote ID compliant, needs a module. Well, hold on, stand by here. I guess, Sandy, my question would be, you are probably flying under Part 107 because you put a module on a drone that's less than 250 grams. So I'm going to go under that assumption. If that's the case, when you register the drone itself, you are going to use the remote ID module serial number as your remote ID serial number in the registration box. I hope that makes sense. There's like, you're registering the drone, and then at one point it says, is it compliant with remote ID? You're going to say yes. How is it compliant? You're going to say with the module, and then you're going to put the remote ID module serial number in there as the compliance number for remote ID. Everything else is related to your drone, aka DJI related. I hope that makes sense. Paul says, this must be a dumb question with an easy answer. Those are my favorite. Does the built-in beacon of the Matrice 4 series satisfy the 3 statute mile anti-collision requirements? Yes. On the Enterprise drone, that anti-collision light is 3 statute mile compliant. Although, on the Matrice 4, I don't know. I actually don't know. Let's say it this way. Historically, the anti-collision lights on the drones have been 3 statute mile compliant. You might want to look into the user manual. I haven't had enough hands-on with that one. So, see Ray Kelly in the chat. What's up, Ray? All right, next. I don't know if the EXO Mini Pro drone I have has the remote ID built in. If it's a mini drone, more than likely no, meaning that it's sub 250. You can go on the DOC page for the FAA. So if you type FAA DOC in Google, it will take you there. You'll be able to type in your model and it will tell you. All right. Oh, Vic is here. Lost track of time. Vic had a little incident, so he's a little paralyzed, unfortunately. So I hope he recovers quickly. My company inspects roofs in the new communities in Florida. At best, it's a 10-minute flight per house. Would I be able to fly without a waiver with a DJI Mini 3 Pro only construction crew on site? Doesn't matter who is on site. If there are people and they're not part of your operation, meaning they're not your visual observer or your or the person flying the control, you cannot fly over them without having a waiver if you have a Mini 3 Pro. So just don't fly over them. That should be the easiest. The beacon on the Mavic 3 Enterprise does not meet the 3 nautical mile requirement. No, I think it does. I think it does. That's what I said earlier. I said historically, the beacon on top of the Enterprise drones has met the requirement, but I'm not sure 100% for the Matrice 4, but I'm guessing that it is. Minut says, concerning pilots of fixed-wing airplane versus drone, what are the similarities and differences for the PIC education and training? Ooh, that's a long question. Well, that's a long answer. Quite a bit more detail on everything for fixed-wing pilot training. I think that's the shortest that I can put it. You know, you're going to spend more time on weather, more time on regulation, because the regulation is more complex. You're going to spend more time on aeronautical decision making. You're going to spend more time on human factors, on airport operations, on things that we don't even cover really all that much in the Part 107. So just in general, just as an example, the Part 107 course, our Part 107 course is 15 hours long. The private pilot course is 35 hours long. So big difference. Why are helicopters exempt from the 500-foot rule? Because helicopters were designed primarily way before drones to be doing what drones do. So they're designed to fly at low altitude, and that's what they do. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they just have a different set of rules they operate under. Okay. Still quite a few questions. George Wood says, what type of license do I need for the 3S? So the way that it works in the United States is that if you fly recreationally, you don't need to have a certificate. You need to have done free training, which the FAA calls trust. You can go to trust.pilotinstitute.com with one of the provider that provides a trust certificate of completion. If you want to fly for anything other than recreational purposes, then you would need to have a certificate with the FAA that's called Part 107. So if you're flying just for fun, for recreational purposes, then all you need is to do trust and then follow all the other rules that are with trust. Skywave says, Mavic Mini 2 is still a good drone. Yeah, the Mini 2 is still a good drone. I mean, obviously there's better technology now, but there's nothing wrong with it. P. Wood says, Chris Mayes, don't know who that is, was just talking about a bill introduced. Oh, AZ Attorney General? AZ Attorney General. Chris Mayes was just talking about a bill introduced to allow law enforcement to shoot down any drone and remove any liability for mistaken takedowns within 15 miles of the border. Any thoughts? Yeah, I saw that. I did see that rule. I'm always cautious when I hear about shooting drones in the air within 15 miles of the border. I actually don't remember seeing that number. I'm not saying it's incorrect, but I thought it was anything that was coming over the border. So difficult, because we know that there is a lot of drug trafficking that is happening using drones over the border, which obviously is horrible. So 15 miles is quite a bit. And I would hate to be flying legally a mission and then all of a sudden get my drone taken down and then have no liability on the party that's taking the drone down. So it's a balance. Maybe reduce that number to being 1 mile or 2 miles from the border, in which case, in most cases, I don't know that you should be flying that close to the border. And I don't know. It's always difficult to balance between safety of the general public and then our hobby and our freedom to fly our drones. So yeah, that's a difficult one. Someone who lives on the same property that I do keeps destroying my drones. Whoa. The local cops won't do anything. What else can I do? Take them to court. take them to court, sue them for property damage. That's your only recourse. ADS says, I was wondering if there was a recommended way of expressing flying during a parade when told not to fly. A way of expressing flying during a parade when told not to fly. I don't know that I understand the question. If there is a recommended way of expressing flying over a parade when told. So I'm guessing somebody told you that you can't fly there, but you want to fly over the parade or during the parade. I mean, it depends on who's telling you. But obviously, if there is no airspace restriction and they don't own the land, I would say go ahead and tell them to call the FAA and then you guys can have a discussion with the FAA. But yeah, I don't like it when people are trying to tell other people they can't do something. Ask them if they're law enforcement. Otherwise, goodbye. Yeah. If I just passed my drone test, how long until the FAA sends me my license in the mail? Your certificate should arrive within roughly about 90 to 120 days. So 3 to 4 months before you get it. Your temporary certificate is valid for 120 days. Paul says, can the Neo fly? Okay, one more time. Can the Neo be legally flown in the United States using only its smart mode, like taking off? Seems like a weird case if you don't have direct control. Yeah, I agree with that. We've reviewed the regulation. We've had people at the FAA tell us that it was legal. I disagree. I don't remember the exact regulation. It's the one about the PIC. You have to be in control of the drone, and I don't know how you can be in control of the drone if the thing is flying by itself. So I don't think it's legal. I'm flying my DJI Mini 4 Pro from a boat next Saturday. Any recommendation on takeoff and landing? Yes, couple. If the boat is moving, it's going to be very difficult to land on the drone, on the boat, if it's moving. Your return to home point is going to be wherever you were when you took off, which means that if something happens, the drone is going to return to that point. And so I would recommend learning how to hand catch instead of trying to land on the boat. Even if the boat is not moving, it's still going to be rocking and it's still going to be weird. So try to recommend to hand catch, and then don't fly too low, too close to the ground. Those bottom sensors don't like the water. And so I would say, fly high enough that it doesn't trigger those sensors. 107.19, thank you, Jason, is the regulation I was talking about with pilot in command. Mountain Man says, can the metro control the airspace in their park, making it unlawful to fly under 400 feet over metro property, land or water? So they can only control the land that they own. They cannot control you flying over that land, only taking off and landing from that land. So if they say you cannot take off and land from the parks, then good. Actually, Ethan linked me to the actual regulation. So let me see if I can quickly browse through it.
That seems to be the wrong one.
Oh.
It does talk about unmanned aircraft, but not in what he's saying. I tried the second one and nothing came out.
Okay, we'll have to look into more detail, but the gist of it is that they cannot control airspace. They can only control the land that they own. So if they say you cannot overfly the drone between 0 and 400 feet, they cannot say that you can't fly between 0 and 400 feet over land. They don't control that. Only the FAA controls the airspace. So if you want us to do a bit more of a read, send us an email with the link, and then we'll take a look at the actual language. We have emailed people, by the way, before in conjunction with Vic, trying to tell them that they can't do certain things. And sometimes we have good luck, sometimes we don't. Okay. Bob Larson says, during a search and rescue incident, is it considered flying over people if they are search personnel that are part of the incident? I mean, technically, well, no, actually, technically, no, because they're part of the operation. So you should be good there. I'll try to ask it as a question. Do you know of any laws that prevent drone mapping for profit in terms of the trade of surveying? And if it's all legal, what is your opinion on potential clients? So that's a great question. Some states have boards of surveyors that will not let you use the term survey when talking about drones unless you are a surveyor, which somewhat makes sense. So I would be cautious. I would read kind of the rules in your state. In North Carolina, I want to say, and I think there's still a big battle going on where the Board of Surveyors was trying to fine someone for using the term survey on their website, or survey grade or survey level or whatever it was. So I would say don't use the term survey if you're doing something. You're doing drone mapping, but even in some places, drone mapping, they're going to try to pretend that it is a survey activity. I don't agree with any of that. I believe it's all a money grab, but you shouldn't be representing, let's put it this way. What I believe in is that you should not be representing your services in such a way that whatever you're providing to the client is not what you're providing to the client. So in other words, if you're saying that it's survey level, but you're not a surveyor, you're probably lying and you shouldn't be doing that. If you're providing a mapping product to someone, then I don't see why you need to have a surveying. So it's all about the vocabulary that you use, I believe. But yes, David says surveying is far more involved than you think. Yes, I agree with that. There's when you're going to provide a product that's going to be used for official purposes, then if you're not a surveyor, you should not be providing that service. Let's put it this way. Unless you are working with a surveying team and capturing data for them so they can sign off on it. Example, we just bought a building and I needed to have surveying work done, and I would want to hire someone that is an actual surveyor because they're going to be signing off on this to give it to the city, and so the city can file the paperwork and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So I hope that makes sense. Who is considered part of the operation? Is it defined in code or in FAA memo somewhere? Good question. I don't... It's not in the regulation. I don't remember if there is something in the advisory circular. I'd have to go back and check on that, David. If you want to send me an email, we can look into more detail on that. Is North Dakota rethinking the DJI ban after seeing the cost? If so, do you think other states are likely to reconsider the ban? Yeah, I think this was a great decision from North Dakota. They looked at the data and they basically said, well, it's going to be far too expensive for us to afford this. And I think also, quite frankly, there's still no real proof that DJI is what they are being accused of being. And as such, North Dakota said, ain't going to happen. We're not going to force anyone. We're going to let them decide whatever they want to use, which is good. Drone choice is good. I live in Class Gulf airspace. I fly recreational. Should I fly with anti-collision light during the day to be safe? Yeah, the FAA actually recommends that you fly during the day with anti-collision light. So it can't hurt. Let's put it this way. Dreaming Monk says, thank you for your responses. I recently completed ALC 677. Is there anything I need to update on my IACRA account, or do I just update my personal records? Nope, there's nothing to update in IACRA. IACRA is just for initial certification. In your case, you need to keep that ALC 677 completion certificate with your flying binder if you have one, or keep a copy of it digitally, and then be able to present it to the FAA if they ask for it. Brendan says, if DJI releases a new Mini before the ban, would that affect that drone? No, the proposed bans that we have seen are only for future drones, not for new drones. Oh, Vic has there you go. Vic from the waiver. Good point. answering, direct participants are the remote pilot in command, person manipulating the control, VO, and any other person whose involvement is necessary for the safety of the SUAS operation. So as such, I knew it was something along those lines. I couldn't remember where it was listed. As such, if you're flying for search and rescue, technically the people on the ground are not part of the operation, so you shouldn't be flying over them. Couldn't Travis Brink call the FAA hotline for this issue and his destroyed drone? You know, possibly. I hate to say it this way, but the FAA is pretty useless when it comes to drones getting shot off the air. I'm not saying this in a mean way. They're pretty useless because there's not really regulation in the FARs, the Federal Aviation Regulation, that they can enforce. The regulation that we talk about is not in the Federal Aviation Regulation. It's in the Code of Federal Regulation, but not in the FARs, not in Title 14. So that would be more of a, I think it's the FBI actually that gets involved with this kind of stuff, or local law enforcement. But if they're not being responsive to that, then yeah, I don't think the FAA would be able to do that. Next question. Can I buy a drone from the UK and then send it to the US with customs? You can, but it might get stuck in custom, or you'll at least have to pay additional fees for import. Formerly Film Photography says my Part 107 exam date is 6/7/2023. My certificate date of issue is June 8, okay, 2023. So when do I need to start the renewal process? It's always from the date of the exam, not from the date on the card. So it's going to be at the end of, it's the same. Wait a second. The exam date was June 7th and the date of issue was June 8th. That doesn't make any sense. The FAA is usually not that fast at issuing certificates. Regardless, if you took the exam on June 7th, you have until the end of June of 2025 to do your currency. After that, you are no longer current. You can still fly recreationally. What's a good starting rate when providing drone services for social media purposes in California? I can't answer that question. The rates depend on the area. I mean, and California is a big state. It depends on where you live, the quality of the footage that you have, the equipment that you have, the packages that you have, your customers. There's a lot of things that go into pricing. Darwin says, I have a drone and the only way to get the serial number is to start up the system. Is there a better way to get the serial number? No, that's usually how it is. It's in the details of the settings. Crypto Horsepower says, how are YouTubers in the US managing to conduct long-range drone tests flying miles away and using FPV without spotters? Doesn't the FAA notice these violations? There are violations. The FAA is typically not really interested in this unless they endangered somebody's life. So we have seen famous YouTuber from Philadelphia who recently settled with the government, gave away all of his drones, and shut down his channel. So that's what can happen to them. Personally, I think you would be horribly brain dead to post any kind of beyond visual line of sight footage on your channel in the United States just because of the things that we've seen lately. So we've seen the guy in the LA fire that was flying beyond visual line of sight, hit the Super Scooper, got $65,000 fine to repay for the damages, and then 300 hours of community service, I think. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. What's even all that interesting about that? I don't know. I just don't get it. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. FPV without a spotter is different, I think. I do believe there is a bit of an overreach. There's a gap in the regulation as far as FPV flying in below treetops, below any sorts of obstacle. Flying FPV at low altitude in an area where there's never going to be another aircraft should be something considered under the law. flying beyond visual line of sight, doing long range tests without proper safety precaution is just, I'm sorry to say, just dumb. Just absolutely dumb. Yep, don't be that guy, like Vic says. It's surprising that there seems to be no enforcement of the rule. Oh no, there is enforcement. There's enforcement of the rules. The problem is that the FAA is not a marketing agency, which means that when they take action, they usually put that on a report somewhere that might be accessible to the public, but nobody ever finds it. And so they take action. They just are not very public about it. And when they're public about it, it's typically because it's a shit show, like the Philly drone life guy. And so yeah, but they do take action. Are there any specific rules for flying for people who live in Florida? Same rules as everybody else. Yep, nope. Their state, as far as flying drones, it's going to be, there are specific rules in a sense based on parks and where you can take off and land, but everything else is federal rules from the FAA. I bought the Firehouse anti-collision light you suggested. Which mode do you use it? Strobe, flash, steady, strobe. Flash is just flashing, but not nearly as bright. The 3 statute mile is the strobe mode. Does the strobe imitate a small aircraft strobe? Yes, it does. On the Drone Zone site, do you need to have the certificate number to create the 107 account and register your drones? No, you don't. Just pass the test and need to know. No, you don't need that. You can actually register the drone before even getting the Part 107. So. Is DJI going to be banned? If DJI is going to be banned, is going to be just the drone or the entire product line, including the gimbal, mic, everything DJI. If the drone bans go the way that they have been proposed to date, it means that the FCC would get involved, and the FCC approves devices that have connectivity functionalities in the device. In other words, if you have Bluetooth connection in the device, like a gimbal, we just reviewed a gimbal a couple days ago, that gimbal has Bluetooth capabilities. If the government gets what they want and are able to ban DJI at the FCC level, they would ban every DJI product, which means that gimbals would be banned, which means that microphone would be banned because they use the airwaves. Anything that uses the airwaves basically would get banned. Future drones, so future devices. So dumb. Do you foresee the FAA coming out with Part 108? If so, when? And the when is the $1 million question. Are they going to do it? Probably, because it's been in a plan for a while. When? Your guess is as good as mine with everything that's going on with the federal government at the moment. If I am going to start a mapping business, would the Air 3S be a good drone to start with? I would say probably not for a drone business. To learn about mapping, the Air 3S is probably sufficient, but you're probably going to want something that can be automatically controlled with planning of different what am I trying? Sorry, it's getting late in the day. You're going to want something that had an SDK where a third-party app can control the drone to do a certain mapping mission pre-recorded. Oof. Last question. Do you have to go through any process at the airport when taking your drone with you while traveling to a different country? It depends on the country. Some countries do not allow drones, so be careful because they might steal your drone as you arrive and confiscate it. So be sure to research. Otherwise, you just need to make sure you have all your batteries with you in the cabin. You cannot put the batteries in your check-in bag. So, whew, goodness. That was a lot of questions. It says 101 unread. I don't know if we entered 101 question, but that was a lot of questions. All right, folks, we're getting close to the end here. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Friday for news updates. And then we also will be back on Friday afternoon with Vic in the community. So make sure to join us for happy hour. And in the meantime, fly safe. Don't be that guy, all of the above. And then we'll see you next time.